It is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City. Talk Neil Atkinson, John Gibbons and Mike Girling. Mike Girling is full of cold, but he's a warrior, John.
Yeah, he was here before me for a start, and he was on time. He looks great because he always does, and he's going to power through because that's the kind of guy he is.
Absolutely, and nothing says Friday night in my mind, by the way, than more than seeing John Gibbons and Mike Girling. Two men I would say have lit up various Liverpudlian Friday nights over the years. They've got a solid track record between them.
Still going.
And a couple of Saturday mornings.
Yeah. I had too many Saturday mornings. Both, I wouldn't say they're both now in semi-retirement, but they're certainly not the forces of nature. They were about 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, not Mike today, anyway. No.
I'll be out later.
You'll see him around the place.
Lem sip as a mixer.
Works, you know.
About it.
We're here to go to talk. What we're going to talk about on the show is we've got coming up talking about the Liverpool Mental Health Festival. We're also going to be talking to Daniel Gray about his book, which is just absolutely fabulous. Our friend Daniel Gray, we've had him on shows before, and it's terrific. It's called 3 PM Saturday, and it's 50 delights of football. It's about simply how we enjoy the game. It's glorious. We're going to talk about the fact that it's Jurgen Klopp, and that has now been at Liverpool for a year. We've got a couple of tunes for you as well, but I want to start off talking about the defence before we segue into that. But before that, the opening question, and at the minute, all of my Twitter things, none of the internet appears to be working here as we're doing this. So I can't remember who it was, but someone said, can you pick 2 5-a-side teams of current managers? So can you pick a 5-a-side team each of current managers? So
worldwide? Or?
No, I think of the current 20 lads who are in the Premier League. Right. So the current 20 lads who are in the Premier League, can you put together if you could get one each, that would be great.
Can't we just do one good one?
But why don't you do one good one? So who'd be in your one good one?
Pep was a great defender, right?
Ronald Koeman was good at footy.
Ronald Koeman wasn't bad. Who's in goal, though?
Well, goalies don't do managers, do they? So I might just have to put Jäger in there because he'd be enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And he was all action as a player. So
yeah, and he's big.
Yeah.
And they're only small, 5-a-side goals.
So we'll put Jäger in goal.
He's got a lot of limbs.
Yeah. He's got the same amount, but they're just long.
Yeah.
A lot of limb.
Yeah.
Maybe a better way of phrasing it. Yeah.
So we're going to go for it then.
Okay. See, I reckon Eddie Howe because he's young.
I was going to say someone like Sean Dyke or Eddie Howe.
We'll go for Eddie Howe, I think because he's quite a young fella and he looks in good nick.
Yeah.
And then we need one more.
Tottenham.
We're not going for Conte.
Well, you're leading the witness there.
You haven't got a goal scorer.
Well, 5-a-side.
Everyone's a goal scorer. Everyone's a goal scorer. It's like Liverpool.
Yeah, I reckon, yeah.
I'd go Conte or Pochettino.
We'll have Pochettino because that was our pick.
Yeah.
We're going for Pochettino.
Going to go for Pochettino?
Okay,
if you want to go up against, if you want to give, see if you can pick 5 to give that a run for the money.
No chance.
Well, you never know. You're saying that you've got
no... Unless someone ridiculous.
You've got no idea how good David Moyes was at 5-a-side. He was phenomenal. Okay, that's the 5-a-side team part of the show boxed. So I want to talk about the defence first and foremost. And John, you've there's been if I say a little bit of grief, it's more that you've had a specific opinion on the manager's decision around the goalkeeper this season. But I want to talk about the fact that in general, there's people still saying, well, we're not sure about the defending on this, we're not sure about the defending on that. It's worth pointing out that even through the season itself, these lads haven't yet got to be a proper settled back four.
No, they haven't. There's been ins and outs, even... It's not even like someone's been injured and they've been able to come back in and get a run. You look at someone like Lovren and it's he's had to step out a couple of times now. Obviously Matip wasn't fit at the start of the season, and you centre-half partnership, you want to get it nailed down as quickly as you can really, and allow them to develop an understanding, and that hasn't quite happened. There's been the Moreno-Milner thing thrown in as well. Milner looks like he's got to grips with it at the moment, but it's still been a learning process for him, and he's also had to, it's another thing for the centre-halves to get used to when they're trying to get used to each other, and then there's that as well. And there's been the goalkeeper situation, not just a new goalkeeper, but a new goalkeeper midway into the start of the season, and so there's been a lot of upheaval really, and so I'm not too surprised that there's been moments where we've looked shaky at the back. I'm not hugely worried about it. There's this stat that we haven't kept a clean sheet since Valentine's Day in the league, and it doesn't look great, does it? But I think looking at it purely from this season point of view, I don't think it's a huge shock, bearing in mind how we play as well, that we have leaked a few goals, and I think I would like to see them as a unit a few more times before they generally get worried about it.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, John, when you said how we play. I just don't see us ever being a team which is going to be a clean sheet merchant team. I just don't, regardless of who the personnel are, how stable we are, because of the way we play. if the percentage of goals conceded are extremely high from set pieces, then that's something we can address. But if we're conceding, like against Arsenal, for instance, I think that's the only time we've really conceded a bucket load in a goal, which we won, by the way. But that was really down to individual mistakes. It wasn't. They weren't set piece goals, although everyone flags up we concede set pieces, and we do. But I'm sure that's something that we can put right, the set piece issue, and that is an issue for us. But in terms of us conceding goals, I'm not sure we're ever going to be. We're never going to be a Mourinho sort of team or a Benitez. It's just not going to happen the way we play. And I think personnel will settle. I think that there's been Sakho was he in? Sakho was he in? Was he any out? There's been lots of and I think the goalkeeper thing's massive for us as well. He was obviously not the first choice keeper at the start of the season. So all the way in pre-season, it was towards the end they were obviously working with
Karius,
sorry, yeah. How could I forget someone so beautiful? And, yeah, and so I think that's not going to help matters. Milner wasn't the full-back to begin with either, first couple of games, but he's obviously done very well. And I just think we're never going to be that team, that 0-0 team. It's the set pieces.
This is what's fascinating to me, John, is when the manager came in, he actually talked a lot about defence, and then opposition sides get to be good as well. I think that's the other thing to point out. They actually get to be good at attacking occasionally. But, he came in and he talked a lot about defence. And then the shape, I remember even at Spurs away, the very first game.
Yeah, I was going to mention Spurs.
The shape was like, the first thing that struck you was the shape. There was tons and tons of shape. And actually, we've got less shape now, I'd argue, with him under him than and he wants that. What I mean is that he wants that movement, and he wants them to have a shape. Obviously, when we lose the ball, but if you're going to take a couple of chances, you're going to take a couple of chances. To me, it's quite an interesting thing that he's come in. He talked about defence. That was a lot of his first press conference. Yeah. A lot of what he did. He then put a lot of that into practice, and he sort of liberalised it, for want of a better word, over the following sort of 4 or 5 months either side of the summer break.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I thought you were going to come in there. Yeah, he did focus on it a lot at the start, both in terms of what he said and how he played. He seems to liberalise the team, and he doesn't seem terribly concerned about it anymore. Look, I'm sure there's things that he could do, but it's telling that, for example, he has a joke about how short the team is when he's speaking to Jamie Carragher. What we can do, we can grow, and it's a joke, but he can literally, if he wants to, buy bigger players. But he's made the decision not to. Everyone was talking about fullbacks at the summer. Hector he's 6'1", isn't he? He's a big lad for a fullback. They could have got him. He was available. They've decided not to pay the money, and Nathaniel Klein. Nathaniel Klein's getting beat a little bit at the moment aerially, and you feel like he's getting targeted a little bit. The goal against Swansea comes from him kind of losing his battle against the guy who's just bigger than him. There's not much Klein he can do, but you don't suspect it. He's not going to suddenly go and get Martin Kelly back and say, well, you play right back because we need a bigger guy. He's not going to do that, and so I think he's sort of accepting that you can't do everything as a football team. You can't be all things to all men. And the right thing for this group of players at the moment, and the right thing for how he wants to play, is to be an attacking side and to defend in a way that's actually being aggressive without the ball, rather than, we're going to have this really good shape, we're going to be compact and difficult to beat, but then it's going to be hard for us to get men forward. I think he's made that decision, and he seems to me fairly comfortable with it.
I think it's key to remember when he talks about defence, he's not necessarily talking about defenders.
Yeah.
He's not. He's talking about the team. So when he was going on about the way we defend, he doesn't mean the 4 lads at the back. And the way we play now, I mean, the reason why we used to concede so many goals as well, and we'd stop scoring goals, is because so much of our play was at the back. We played in our own half, passing the ball around interminably around the back. We're hardly ever in our own half under Klopp, and so the role of the defender, or if you like, the importance of the defender to the end result is less important. That individual is a worldie. I'm not taking anything away from the players we've got, because they're very good and they're doing their jobs well, but they're not. We're playing the game in the opposition half. We'll probably do that for most of the season. So we defend all over the pitch now. I mean, it's become a bit of a cliche to talk about the pressing, but that's defending. Pressing is defending. It's just, that's normally you'd let you, in the old days, that's what your back four does, goes and gets the ball off someone else. Now everybody in the team does that. So we've got 10 defenders.
But the other thing about that, though, is that if everyone is doing that and everyone's looking to do that, the other thing what that means, Mike, is that means you're playing football in the red. That means everyone's got to be constantly on it. There's no safety net for anyone on the pitch.
Well, he says, doesn't he, you're either contributing or you are defending. I'm sure I might have missed missed a bit out there, but I'm sure that's his kind of philosophy as a player. You are either contributing to the attack or you are defending. You're either doing one or the other, and I think that's brilliant for because it sums up what we're seeing on the pitch.
I think for me, it's gambles, and I think, John, you've said there you think he's comfortable. He's quite comfortable with the situation. For me, it's a big gamble, and I'm fine with it as well, because I think that the only way in which we do what we need to do is through some gambles and through taking some chances. And you look at Leicester last season as an example. Leicester's gamble was, we'll keep winning games even if we don't have very much of the ball. We'll find the way. Every football team to some extent is taking a gamble. I think the sort of gamble this Liverpool team's taken, and it reminds me in strange ways of that sort of period, a certain period of Ferguson at United, where there's a hiding in the post for us at some point. Like, I'm saying this now, I'm almost trying to lay the groundwork here when we're all thinking, when we're all going, oh no, woe is us, because at some point someone could just turn around and do us 5-2, in the way in which Ferguson's United goes to Southampton and gets done 6-3, and then loses 5-0 to Newcastle, but goes on and wins the league, because firstly they know how to lose, but secondly, they were playing football that was full of these little sort of mini gambles. And if you have a day where you're gambling in 11 positions,
and the other team
has
their day, everything comes off for
them, and you have a stinker. And my point here is that we're going to have to sort of prepare for the fact that could well happen, that at some point we could have been 4-0 down at half time against Swansea. At some sort of point it could just go against us, because we are taking these chances.
I mean, Burnley had a day a little bit like that. I mean, they never hit two like that ever. A game this season, 2-1 game, and so the way it is. So they had a little bit of that. I think that is right. I wonder whether Sturridge is a safety net a little bit. I think that's maybe why he likes Sturridge. I think there's lots of reasons to like Sturridge. He's a very good footballer, but he's not a perfect Klopp player. No. But I think he sees Sturridge as someone who might get him a goal when things aren't going well. And you've seen that in the past with teams, not least Liverpool, when we didn't play well, but we win 2-0 because Michael Owen just bet his 2 and was great. There was times like that in the past. Fowler used to do that, and I think that's his thing with Sturridge. I still think that if he was to pick his best 11, his perfect 11, for the game tomorrow, which is how is this going to symbolise most how you want to play it? And if everyone plays well, this is your team. I don't think he necessarily starts Sturridge. I think Sturridge is maybe one way he goes.
I don't think he does either.
But he has started him quite a bit this season, like maybe more than you would have thought post Burnley. And so I think he thinks that maybe Sturridge is one. It's interesting that he throws him on against Swansea when things aren't going well, because
rather than Origi.
Yeah, or rather than a midfielder, because it's a midfielder.
Well, he came on for an injury, though, to be fair.
But it was to an injury to a midfielder, is what I mean. So the easiest thing to do would have been to throw Emre Can on, but he throws Sturridge on because I think he maybe thinks when things aren't going well, Sturridge is my man who's going to pull me out of this, and are the other guys going to do it? Does, for example, Firmino need Liverpool to be playing well to flourish? Does Mane kind of need that? Do they need the platform? Whereas Sturridge almost doesn't. Sturridge will just get you the goal out of nowhere, and I wonder whether that's his little safety net. You're talking about safety nets in different areas, and what happens if it doesn't go well to this Liverpool team? I wonder a little bit if Sturridge is.
I'm intrigued. I think that could be a good argument. Could be more on the manager.
I don't know if Sturridge is like that, right?
No. But he's got
to be grown up.
Yeah.
I'm sure
it might not be true.
Very fair point. This is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk. More on the manager to come very, very shortly as well. But a couple of conversations about another thing just after this. That was Common People on Radio City Talk, and me and John Gibbons are joined now by Claire Stevens from the Liverpool Mental Health Festival, which is ongoing from the 1st of October to the 15th of October, and we're slap bang in the middle of it, Claire, so I'm going to ask you the obvious question. How's it going?
It's going all right so far, thanks very much.
Nothing's burnt down. That's always my first question. People have turned up and nothing's burnt down.
No, but we live in hope.
We were chatting in the lift about how graceful Claire looks and how she seems like nothing's bothering her at all, and she assures me that underneath this cool persona, there is flapping of water, like the
it's
duck.
Ironic. It's a mental health festival, but actually, it's really quite a stressful time for me.
It is the mental health festival. I want to talk about that. First of all, you announced it about sort of 10 months ago, and it's wrapped around sort of National Mental Health Day as well.
Yeah, it's World Mental Health Day.
World Mental Health Day, sorry, and that's a big deal, and it's something which I think is becoming more and more. The issues around it become more and more prescient, really, in modern society. I think people are talking about it that bit more, but still not enough.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely something that there is still stigma around, and I do think it's changing for the better. People are realising that unless you talk about it, you can't get support with it, and more of us are experiencing problems.
It's the festival itself then that's been pulled in around it, I noticed that, for instance, we'll come on to get onto the actual specifics, but what you've not done is just drilling into sort of quite sort of talks, of quite intense talks and stuff. For instance, there's art exhibitions that are going on around it. There's lots and lots. The event, it is the idea, and again, finding ways to talk about it, because I think people sort of presume that it's got to be an intense conversation necessarily to address these sorts of issues, and that can be something that people find quite off-putting, I think. Whereas making clear that, well, mental health is in many ways it touches in everything we do. We do a football podcast, and one of the things that comes through that, when you speak to ex-players and you speak to people who work in the game, how important the mental side of the game is. When you look at sort of at works of art that actually touching on human consciousness and the way in which we think, and how that can be tempered by the way in which our mental health is therefore imposing upon the way in which we express ourselves, and so on and so forth. So I think that's got to be finding ways to talk differently about it, part of the challenge.
Absolutely, you're quite right. It does touch everything that we do. It touches on where we live, how much we earn, whether we're in a job at all, how we feel physically as well as mentally, obviously. And in times of sort of austerity and cuts and all that, it really affects all of us. So it is important to talk about it, and we don't want it to be a boring thing, because mental health in itself is not a bad thing, just as health in itself is not a bad thing. And we all need to look after our health, whether it be physical or mental.
You've talked there, you mentioned there the cuts thing, and we're recording this in the week of the Tory Party conference, and those sorts of all that stuff sort of ongoing. More and more again in this sphere, you do feel as though we almost need to. I say this in general about Liverpool, but I think on certain issues we almost now need to be able to have an approach that's above government in a sense, because we can't necessarily trust that that's going to be there. And again, this is something that's being touched upon within the festival.
Yeah. We think that peer support is one of the most important things you can have, and obviously that's important whether you're playing football in a team and you're reliant on the people around you, but it's important in terms of family support. But I think most people get most of their support from their friendship networks, and unless you're sort of plugged into those sort of friendship networks, it can be quite isolating and difficult.
Yeah, it can be, and I think that's really why it's so important that you've got sports involved this year, and there's obviously the football tournaments on Monday, which we're hoping to get involved with if we can sort of find the time on our ridiculous Mondays. But because that's where groups of people do get together, and as you say, they do kind of rely on to each other and stuff. And we've spoke to the guys at Sefton Cricket Club, who unfortunately lost one of their players a few years ago. But how it kind of brought them together, and how they have worked since on promoting just talking to each other and just asking each other how each other are, because they are your teammates and they are your friends, and we can all have a drink together and things like that and enjoy each other's company. But I think being there for each other doesn't have to be seen as something that is necessarily frowned upon anymore. I think that's something that it should be encouraged, and something that kind of is being encouraged. I think it's good that the football tournament's there, because it's first of all, it's going to be a lot of fun for the people who are there, but it's also a reminder that we rely on each other on the pitch, and we work together in this way, and there's other ways you can do that as well.
Definitely. I think, do you want to talk a bit about where the football
go on.
Plug away.
Okay, so it's the National Mental Health Football Championships. It's going to be at Goals Soccer Centre on Monday, the 10th of October, which is World Mental Health Day. So it couldn't be on a better day. Goals Soccer Centre is at 151 Park Lane in Netherton. And it's going to be going on from 12 noon till 4 p.m. So it should be a really good opportunity for lots of teams to get together and have fun as well, because I think that's a really big part of the festival, is that without having fun, our mental health, is never going to be good. So,
what else is going on at the festival as well? You mentioned that event there. What other things can people go to this weekend and for the week ahead? Okay,
the big event on Saturday, the 8th, is the event in Williamson Square, which is going on all day. So that's 10 till 5. We've got a huge programme of events. We've got a stage there, so we've got free music, bands playing. We've got Murky Waters, a local musician, playing. Lots of other great bands, Mama Tongue. We've got Movement doing dance. We've got drumming. We've got a bit of theatre performance from young people at 20 Stories High. Wirral Roller Derby are going to be doing a demonstration, so that's well worth coming down to see.
It's very much in our area.
We love the roller derby. We'll absolutely love it. Not just mental health, like bashing your mate over.
Yeah. On roller skates.
That's it. Who could resist? We've also got a marquee with a load of information stalls and we've got some market stalls as well, so you can get advice around things like benefits advice, as well as because we reckon that mental health isn't just something that should be you go to your doctor about. It can be like you're feeling low because you haven't got much money, or you're worried about paying your next bill, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of practical advice there, as well as Talk Liverpool will be there that you can sort of self-refer to if you want to speak to somebody about the way that you're feeling. There'll be the CAMS partnership, who deal with children and adolescent mental health. Help Musicians UK will be down there. All kinds of stuff.
It is. It's sounds very, very thorough indeed. So I think hopefully there's people can get down and can get involved. And I think that's the other thing as well, which is again talking about this and introducing people to this and getting people involved in these sorts of things. Claire, is stage one of a process, because it will almost certainly be necessary for everybody at some point to have to talk about, or it should be necessary for almost everybody at some point to have to talk about mental health, in the same way that at some point almost everybody is going to have to talk about physical health. And I think that's the key thing, is just finding ways and find anyone who's listening to this, whether in Liverpool or not, to normalise those conversations, that these are perfectly normal conversations. It shouldn't be seen as, it shouldn't be seen with any sort of stigma about it at all, because in the same way you wouldn't have a stigma about having a toothache. You wouldn't be thinking, I can't talk about the fact that I've got sore teeth.
Yeah, that's it. And you'll happily sort of chat to your mates about how you're feeling a bit rough because you've got a cold, or you got flu, or you've broken your arm, or these sorts of things. Well, mental health is just the same. Some days our brain feels like it's got flu. Some days it's a more sort of serious issue. It can be a chronic thing, it can be an acute thing, in just exactly the same way as physical health can.
Okay. Hopefully, if you're coming down to the football on Monday, we get we get ourselves in order and we're there to some degree. We're going to work on that. Let's have a meeting this afternoon, John, and we'll be able to be there. But if not, there's the events in Williamson Square. There's the exhibition stuff as well. There's all the stuff that's going on about the Mental Health Festival. You can follow them on Twitter and find out exactly what's happening there. It is Liverpool MHC at Liverpool MHC, in order to also follow the Liverpool Mental Health Consortium. After the break, we will return to talking about the football. Me and John Gibbons, we know what we're about. Welcome back. It's the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk, and we're joined now by Daniel Gray. And if you've been listening to the Anfield Wrap for a while, you know we speak to Daniel. We've spoken to him about one of his previous books, and we've also spoken to him a lot about Middlesbrough. But he's got a new book out, and it's called Saturday 3pm, and it's 50 Eternal Delights of Modern Football is the subtitle, and I've read it, and it is full of eternal delights. I absolutely loved it to pieces. I nearly had a little cry on a train. I'll just glow about it in a few minutes, because I think it's a bit distasteful to actually have the author on the line and behave like that. So before then, I want you to sort of Dan, just give us sort of the premise of the book, why you chose to write it, what inspired you towards it in this general direction.
I didn't mind the praise. I'm happy to have that. I shan't be able to walk out of the room due to head size after that, but that's fine by me. Well, it came from a place of loathing, as all delight perhaps should, in that it was last January when the Footballing Authority decided to stretch out the FA Cup third round over 5 days. And to me, the FA Cup third round is Christmas Day. It's special. And I just thought, am I really still in love with this game? I still go all the time. I travel down to Middlesbrough from Edinburgh. I go to games in Scotland. And I started to list things that I did, that I still loved, that still existed, not just nostalgic things looking back. And I found that there are well more than 50 things that I still absolutely adore about the game. And they're just worth celebrating. It really is worth thinking why you go, why you bother, why you're still in love with the game, and just reflecting on it and celebrating it in that way.
It comes through massively in the book. It comes, that sort of joy de vivre. So I'll give you a quick list here of things that are on there, and I'm expecting Mike and John to say, yep, that they're right behind them. So things that remain right and proper as far as Daniel was concerned. Seeing a ground from the train. Brackets on scorelines on video printers. When the ball hits the bar and doesn't go in, though I thought there should have been a subsection down on when the ball hits the bar and then bounces down just the goal side of the line and then bounces back up again. But, it's your book. You can make any call you like.
Just scribble on it if you want. There's a lot of space in it. It's only 20,000 words. So it's very beautifully... the typography allows for space of scribbles like that. So.
Yeah, no, the typography is one of its real joys.
Yeah. That's one of the things things I love about modern football.
Jimmy Armfield's voice, which is just your little passage on Jimmy Armfield's voice was just gorgeous. And I was actually talking to someone last night about Jimmy Armfield and Jimmy Armfield's voice, and the fact that it's just a true treasure whenever he speaks about a football match. Because Jimmy, in fact, I'll do this now, Daniel. Jimmy Armfield is possibly the only football commentator I can think of who manages to sort of evoke a Test match special-ish quality around the game.
I wish I thought of that.
He does.
Just scribble it in, Don.
Yeah,
In the gaps.
yeah, scribble in your copy. You've done that as well. I'll scribble in mine.
He still plays church organ, Jimmy Armfield.
Does he?
He still plays every Sunday. He plays his church organ.
Is this what a man? Listening to the results in traffic jams, which is also just utterly fantastic. Football towns, i.e., towns you know, but the fact that as a 10-year-old you have a very strange knowledge of English geography and Scottish geography off the back of towns that you've heard.
Blythe
is a great example. We all know Blythe. We know where they are. Autograph hunters. There's 50 of them, and they're these small. You said it's 20,000 words. They're these sort of 450 to 700 word essays, and just hymns. To be honest with you, Dan, that's why I just loved it. You really did evoke the essence of what it was you were trying to put over in terms of that this was stuff that clearly makes you happy, but can make people happy in general.
Yeah, I think I'm realising how universal they are. I mean, seeing the ground from the trains, the first time I admitted I did that, I found so many people went, I love doing that. I just thought it was one of my most geeky habits in combining my love of trains with my love of football grounds, but it turns out we're all at it, and you get into these conversations about from which line can you see most grounds and all of this, and just seeing the ground asleep when you pass it through the week like that, and being able to still smell the hot dog onions anyway, even though they're not actually there at the time. A lot of the book's all about the way football is a real hook in our lives and an anchor. You know, there's one about when you get the fixture list during the summer, and just being able to know exactly where you'll be in 5 months' time, and even what mood you'll be in if you know you're playing a certain team that day. It's very, very comforting, really.
Yeah, I think I love it as well, and I think it's great for people who've got a bit cynical, because I think it's almost become a bit cool to be cynical about football, even amongst those who still go. You know, we get that a bit at Liverpool when you go, and there's people, you know, turning up moaning, and I'm just going to start handing out copies of this book to people. You know, it fits in their pocket, so it's fine. And you know, I just tell them to read it, and by page 20 to try and tell me that they don't love the game, because I think that's why I really, really liked it, because I think we've all got a little bit of that in us, but we've also still got that, obviously, that child in us who still fell in love with the game, or as you say, we wouldn't be going.
No, I think your club's the perfect example of that, because through all the money that's gone through and the different owners and things, when I look at your manager now, he seems to embody that. And if you were writing 50 Liverpool delights, you'd write one about his glasses falling off or whatever. But just it does retain it, and your fans retain all of these little things. It's hard to people that are outside the game, all they go on about is the money. But you lads still go, and you know what I mean by watching an away end go mental and limbs everywhere and all of this stuff. And so they are universal. You both know how much I love low division football, but they go right to the top of the game. And John, you're right, it fits in pockets, and I'd like to see Premier Inn replace Gideon Bibles and have it.
But it should come with a season ticket renewal, because there's season ticket holders with the biggest moaners, aren't they? Let's be honest. But yeah, I agree, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being reminded. You know, especially for people who are a little bit older, you know, being reminded why you still do it, why you do forget, you know, and there's a lot that can, you know, there's a lot of rubbish that goes on with the game, and you forget what it is, the you know, just the basics of it, you know, the natural greatness of it, and you can forget all that.
I am a bit upset though that one thing didn't make it. I remember me and you in university going to see Middlesbrough Aston Villa, because that's the kind of thing we did when other people were talking to girls, and and Aston Villa equalised, and then Middlesbrough scored a late winner, and we did some fantastic V's to the away fans, and flicking the V's to perfectly nice people who've done nothing to deserve it. I think
I'm getting the sequel out of this phone call. That is a tremendous joy.
I like the reference of the away end, seeing an away end go berserk, because one of the things I remember, I was actually with John for this, and I was actually in Mike's bar, and I didn't expect to pull this all together, but I was in the Dovedale Tables one Monday night with John, and I've just found the date, it was the 8th of December 2014, and I'm watching Southampton versus Manchester United, and Manchester United win the game 2-1, Van Persie gets 2 for United, and they were under Van Gaal, and they hadn't had a very good start to the season, they were struggling a little bit, and it was a smash and grab job at Southampton. But it was the Monday night game, and I remember watching it on television in the Dovedale and having a lovely meal of food. Mike, I'm sure you've probably got the same chef. It's 2 years on,
Same chef.
But I'm watching it, and I remember the end. And it's Manchester United, so they're meant to be our mortal rivals. And I remember watching all the United players go to that away end at the end of the match, and I remember just thinking to myself, I wish I was in that end.
Yeah. Because
of the way in which, they've gone all the way to Southampton on a Monday night. They've gone through all that rigmarole, and I don't care. That's not about money. That's just simply about the sheer inconvenience of going to Southampton on a Monday night. And in the 60s, games kicked off at mad time, so let's be honest about this. They've gone all the way to Southampton on a Monday night, and they've had the most universal feeling of a smash and grab. And now their players are absolutely in front of them. The players were trying to get in the end and everything. And I profoundly remember thinking, I really wish I was in that, and isn't football absolutely brilliant?
A great moment.
Yeah. In those moments, you sort of feel sad for people that don't quite get it as well. Yeah, and there's enormous empathy between us, I think, when it comes down to it, like that example.
I think so. So the book, you've got 50 of them in there, and as I say, they're all these lovely little... For me, it's a book that I've read and that I'm going to pick up and read again, but only in small bursts now. So I've done it, it's finished, and I'm quite looking forward to sort of picking it up and flicking to a random page and just reading one whenever I'm feeling a bit low. Just quickly before I give it a massive push, because, this hasn't been big enough, what didn't make the cut?
God, last minute winners. It's ones that I've come up. We got rid of a few that just weren't working correctly, and I've got a list somewhere or other, and they've all gone completely out of my head. I've written another book since. That's the problem with it. I certainly remember last minute winners not getting in there, and there've been a few recently where So I'm probably up to 12, so I need another 38. Anyone's welcome to write my next book for me. I'll just take all the credit, and I'm absolutely fine. Have I got out of that question?
Yeah, the People's Saturday 3 p.m. That's the sequel. It's on Bloomsbury. Bloomsbury have published it, and it's $8.99. You can get it through Bloomsbury's own website. You can get it as an ebook. It's sitting on there, bloomsbury.com. If you just Google Saturday 3 p.m. Daniel Gray, it's Gray with an A. You'll find out everything about it. It's going to be in all bookshops because Bloomsbury are publishing it, and I think they're going to rightly give it a push. It looks lovely. It's got this lovely sort of Lowry front cover that looks terrific, and the typography does make it a joy to read. It's just a fantastic book. All good bookshops, hopefully everywhere in the world, wherever you want to get it. Saturday 3 p.m. 50 eternal delights of modern football. Daniel, what are you going to do? You've said you've written another book, but I feel as though you might have done your masterpiece, mate. I don't want to put any pressure on you.
It feels almost like a first album, even though I've done 5 books before it, because I'm so pleased with it. And it turns out just writing really short books is the best thing to do, I think, for my concentration and quality. I'd love to do more with this. I'd love to get them out there a bit more, whether it's as audio clips or whatever, because I think that they are striking a chord that's perhaps needed more than ever in the modern world, and that.
Well, I agree with you. We've got a strange little click on the line, but I'm just going to say I agree with you. And maybe you should have a conversation with Mr. John Gibbons on air and off air, and we'll go from there on that sort of thing. This has been the Anfield Rats. We've not finished. We've got another part to do talking about football. Thank you very much to Dan. We'll be back in a second, but first we're going to play this. It's The One I Love by R.E.M. The One I Love by R.E.M. That is an absolute banger. The playlist, by the way, this week's been phenomenal, John, to be honest with you. I could have picked up almost any of them. Yeah,
there was 10 to pick from, wasn't there? And they were all quality. More of that.
Radio City Talk for you. Can barely put a foot wrong at the moment. That's the way in which it works. Speaking of people who can barely put a foot wrong, there's the Liverpool manager at the moment.
I thought you meant Mike Girling.
Well, that's true as well.
Every hit goes in.
Talk about Jurgen Klopp and the fact that he's been here a year, and it's a bit of becomes a tired conversation quite quickly, John, because people are doing it all over the place, and some people do it well and some people do it less well, and we'll see how we get on. But what still strikes me about it, and we talked about it at the start of the show, is this football. Is the gambles, and that they feel all like a series of chosen and educated gambles. That what's got my attention about him is how much I think he's enjoying it, and that we sort of think he turns up as the finished product, and we that's the way we start to think. We think he must be he's turning up as Borussia Dortmund's Jurgen Klopp, whereas even after Borussia Dortmund, he's had 6 months out of football. He's cleared his head basically after the Borussia Dortmund thing, and he's probably spent some time reflecting on what he could have done better in that period. And that's not to say he's now definitely a better manager than he was then, but just that he might be a slightly different one. And I think that we expected to see him be a bit more all in when he first came, and instead he's been a bit more reserved. And you get the impression he's just picking his moments. He's just picking his wander through, sort of being Liverpool manager, if you know what I mean. I think that we possibly haven't had the full Jurgen Klopp experience yet as we might have expected, but we also might not get it because he's a different person, is what I'm driving at. He's continuing to grow and develop and change.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's right. I think you've got to remember he hasn't won anything yet, and I think he'll be conscious of that as well. I don't think he wants to be famous for his personality or famous for, you know, certain things he says. You know, you sense he sort of cringes a bit when people go, "Oh, I remember when you said heavy metal football."
He does.
And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I say all sorts of nonsense." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He sort of cringes a bit. And, yeah, I guess he doesn't have to go on Monday Night Football if he doesn't want to. But then he wasn't being, like, this Jurgen Klopp character on there. He was just talking about footy, wasn't he? And so I think we'll see kind of more of him as hopefully Liverpool becomes successful and hopefully we win things, because I think that's when, you know, he'll be able to kind of get into his stride more, really. I don't know. I think people presume that he's this big orchestrated character, where actually I think he looks back a lot at what he does and goes, "Oh, yeah, what are you doing there? Yeah, you're worse than your dad." Yeah.
I think he's himself. Everything that you read about him from people who know him just say he is himself, and it's just the way he is, and so he can't help the fact that he's quotable because he's just being himself. He's not pulling any camouflage. He's not putting any camouflage. He's not hiding behind anything. He's not putting a mask on when he faces the press. You know, you talk about Monday Night Football. I reckon he did that because he thought he'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. And I think he just thinks on that kind of binary level. He's just doing. I don't think he'd be here if he didn't enjoy it. He doesn't have to be here. You know, and as you say, he's not Dortmund. It's a different project, different program for him. And I just think the reason why he is such a breath of fresh air, and we are very lucky, is because he's a break from the mould, the cookie cutter of what managers do and say and act like, especially in this country. And he's just completely, he's not interested in it. He's not deliberately, you know, putting two fingers up, if you like, to the tried and tested way that you deal with the media and the fans. He's just himself, and we're just lucky that himself is a pretty cool fella, you know, who's also funny and a little bit mad.
I think I'd agree with that, Mike. I think the other thing as well that I take from it is that the other thing that he sort of evokes, whether rightly or wrongly, whether he is right or wrong, is that he's got this phased plan. I don't think it's as simple as he's just going to turn up and everything's going to be different, because that's not what he's done. No. You know, he's took his time, he's had a look at things, he's not tried to sort of lash everything out straight away, or, you know, you look at the transfer window where he wants to feel as though he develops footballers for him. That's part of the phased plan.
He said he wouldn't do it if that wasn't the case, didn't he?
Yeah. That's what he wants to do, and I think that the key thing for me on that phase plan is that, you know, I think it's worth pointing out that Rodgers as Liverpool arguably improved either performances or results in every 5-game spell until the end of the 13-14 season, until that Chelsea game. You could take any previous 5 games and say the last 5, the 5 we've just played, were better than any other 5 you care to pick. You could say that, and then it stops. And the key thing about this is I think you may well be able to say something not entirely the same, but similar with Klopp in terms of the fact that you're on this developmental plan. For me, the key test on him is going to be the point where it feels as though, either because we've done the equivalent of selling Suarez, there's been a bit of a backward step taken up. You know, that's where I think it's going to be tricky for him, where it's going to become more of a job. But you know, with a bit of luck, it might never happen.
To prove something we won't know. I mean, obviously the major difference between Klopp and pretty much any other manager is right now is we don't have star players in this league. His whole ethos is the team is the star, right? He's been clear on that on day one, and like you say, his method is to fix it on the training ground. We will become better on the training ground rather than buying in a star player who's going to bring us up a level or two. So, in terms of how successful that is, I think we'll probably only find out when we get some injuries. Which we were going to get injuries for significant players who've been significant for us. If the replacements come in and nothing changes, then we're onto something then, and that's sustainable. Which is the opposite of what you said about 5-game improvements. Because if your base level is what we're seeing now, regardless of who's in the team, that's how you become a great team, right? And we're only going to know that, I think, when form or injuries and things like that start to take effect.
Yeah, and it's the fact at the moment they all seem to have so much faith in each other, and there's the philosophy of Klopp, which is that you attack as a team and you defend as a team, and it's everyone's responsibility, and that's fine when it's going well, but if say the defence gets doesn't improve from set pieces and we get a bit more shaky, and maybe the goalie coming in doesn't work out quite as well as people want it to, it's quite easy to, if you're a striker, to get despondent and to go.
And we saw it at times last season.
Yeah, I know, and it has happened, and that's what I mean. And suddenly you start seeing Sturridge's shoulders go, or you start seeing Coutinho shooting from everywhere and things like that. And I think that can happen as well, and that's a real test for a manager. It's all right saying, "Oh, we all defend together," and then believing in that if it's going pretty well. But if the goalie keeps dropping them, then suddenly they'll go, well, you say we're all defending together, but he's got to defend the most, and he's not doing it, or the centre-halves aren't doing it. Yeah, exactly. Or the defenders aren't doing it, or whatever. And I think that's when the philosophy can start to kind of not fall down necessarily, but there starts to be some of the guys thinking, well, we're a bit more. Some of us are more equal than others in this.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and I think the thing is about people. There's loads of cliches in football, and God, we hate them, but one of them is identity. You know what I mean? Yeah. The team has an identity. It can mean anything to anyone, really, that. But you'd only really know if the team truly does, this is its identity, if the players who are currently making that up, for one reason or another, aren't playing, and the replacements come in and nothing changes. Yeah. That's the way Liverpool play then. And then that's exciting. And if that's what we get to see, then he's, brilliant.
The other thing as well, but we're not going to have time to properly talk about it, though, is that the notion of the Holy Trinity, the manager, the players and the supporters coming close together, for me, that's a big deal. John, very quickly on this, you feel as though it has actually been a massive part of his focus, trying to bring the players and the supporters closer and closer together?
Definitely, from both points of view. I think he's made a point of saying to the players, you go over there and thank them. And he's also not been shy about having go to supporters as well, and that's quite a difficult thing to do. There's basically only a few managers in the world who confront the Liverpool fans who think very highly of themselves, let's face it, and go, do you know what, yous aren't good enough? And he's done it, and it's been successful. He's got more out of the fans, and it was brave, but it's paid off.
He's got serious cojones to do what he did. To do what he did there. It's like an unwritten law, which again goes back to him being his own man. You never have a go at fans. If you do, it's like the end. And he pretty much did it from the get go, didn't he? He said straight as soon as he got here, up your game. Up your game. The atmosphere's not good enough, and so I think there's very few people that could have pulled off what he's pulled off thus far.
Thank you very much to John Gibbons and to Mike Girling, and to Dan and to Claire as well. Thank you for them for joining us too. This has been the Anfield Wrap this week. I tell you what, you couldn't tell it was an international break there. I thought that was excellent.